Hello, it's Josh, and I wanted to do an update video on how things are going with my A5 vendor spec binder. I want to show you how it's sort of wearing in, how I'm using it, and also kind of some of the tweaks to my setup that I've done. And I wasn't sure if me facing the camera video was best for this, but I feel like I'm more comfortable this way than when I try to do one of those look down at my planner and talk off camera type of things. So anyway, we'll see how this goes, and hopefully it will go well. Here's the vendor spec. I will just close the tab here. First things first, it's holding up really nicely. You can see, if I look in the glare, you can see I've got a couple of dings in the closure tab here. There's been a good number of small scratches that I found in the finish from use, but I noticed that they pretty quickly become almost invisible, and I can't get them to show up on the camera even. I can see them with my naked eye, but I can't get them to show on the camera. This is the, it's 180 is the code. This is red, full grain Italian leather, Italian cowhide, I think is what they call it. It's glossy. It's pretty smooth, but you can see it's definitely got lines and marks. I guess at this point it actually kind of, almost on camera, looks almost like a Filofax Malden, except it's so much nicer than that. But it is glossy. It has no kind of protective coating on the leather at all, so it definitely does show small scratches, marks, scuffs, nicks. The color is not dyed through the leather, so it is actually possible to scratch through the color layer, which is very noticeable, and then over the course of several days from handling it and everything, it becomes, like I said before, somewhat invisible. So the other thing I wanted to show, a lot of people faff about with whether to get a stiffener or not. So I wanted to sort of, first of all, I'll just sort of, I'm not even sure how to do this, but I mean, so that's how, this has the regular full stiffener in it. I think that what people are worried about is that the stiffener will prevent the binder covers from opening flat on a table. If you look here, see that? I've talked about this in videos in the past, but it seems like people are still really angsty about this, so I'll just say it again. This is called the hinge. In bookbinding, any hardbound book, you'll see that the board covers and the spine are connected with a hinge. And so there's stiffening material in the cover, and then the spine, just the ring mechanism, I think, is creating the stiffness. And in between, there is no stiffener. It's just leather, and probably, I can't even tell if there's padding in there too. But, so this is what it does, and you can do this. It's not going to hurt anything. You can do the same thing on the back side. It's not going to hurt anything. It's totally flexible. And I've got a fair amount of stuff in pockets, but even the covers flex perfectly fine. It's not like a Franklin Covey binder. It's not hard, stiff. It is flexible, but it's still, like you see, it's got enough rigidity that it stays looking tidy. So anyway, I'm hoping that this will sort of help people who are worrying about whether to get a stiffener or not. The stiffener doesn't wrap around the spine, so you're not going to have like the Finsbury effect where you open it, where it will only open like this, and you push it down, it springs right back up again because the stiffening material wraps around. As I say, look, I mean, this is, and I've been using this daily since the beginning of April, and yeah, I mean, this is totally flexible. So, I don't think that that you can see this, but you definitely see where the leather does flex around. No, not really. Anyway, I'm seeing just the very beginning signs, just sort of, I wouldn't even call it wear, just use. Where it bends there, you sort of see a little bit of slight wrinkle in the leather and things. But anyway, like I said, this is holding up really nicely. I carry it absolutely all the time, every day, so it's held up really nicely. I did, and this was really my fault, I had stuck a check that I needed to deposit into this pocket, and it had ended up way down inside. And I went into the bank, and I was in a rush, and I dug my hand in here looking for it, pulling it up, and all of a sudden I got this seam here ripped. Again, I was being totally abusive. I think that I just developed this sense of security that this binder was built like a rock, and I couldn't break it. So I did, but I contacted Petra, Petra van der Spek, and she got back to me immediately and told me to send it back to her, and she would fix it. She even paid shipping both ways for it to be returned and to then ship it back to me. There was some delay in getting the repair done because when this happened, it was right before they were going on a vacation, so they were closing for a little bit. But it came back to me, good as new. They actually, Petra sent me a picture of when they took it apart, showing me exactly, it was no construction defect. It was really that I had pulled the leather so hard that I had ripped it right across where it was stitched. So, they replaced a few pieces of leather for me and stitched it all back up again, and you can't even tell anything was done. It looks completely the same. So, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, they even down here where they actually had to re-stitch, it looks like they actually hit the same holes and stuff. It's really beautifully done. Everything else about it is working out great. The pockets, the pen loop, everything. I do notice that I don't think you guys can see this, but there's like the leather's gotten a little, it's all just showing a little bit of use, but it's holding up really nicely. So that's the binder, sort of an update, how it's going. If that's all you're interested in, you can stop here, because now I'm going to start talking about what's going on inside. So shifting gears now, we're going to go in the binder. Anyway, I'm going to put it down for a second. I'm just going to talk to you. So when I set this binder up initially, I was using day on 2 pages from Daytimer, month on 1 page with a tab, also from Daytimer, which I was using mostly just for all-day events, pay dates, and sort of to have a zoomed-out view of the month. So if somebody wanted to know when I could finish a project or something, I could just look at that and I could sort of see how many weeks I had, what days dates fell on, things like that. And then I had the week on 2 pages, which came with the binder, that I was using for all my forward planning, because I can only fit a small number of day pages in the binder, so I wanted something that I could plan things out way in advance. This became really confusing. Having 3 different calendars that I was trying to maintain, even though I think that I had a rough idea of how each of them worked, that I didn't need to write the same thing on all 3, it became really I started to have a lot of near misses with scheduling problems because something was written on the week page but hadn't been transferred to the day page, or something had been put on the day page but hadn't been transferred to the week page, and the off chance sometimes that I had started to put things on the month view without copying them to one or the other or both of the others. So that was getting confusing. It was starting to create a little bit of panic for me. Maintaining 3 was just too much. So because I wanted to stick with date, I considered getting rid of the months and the days and just keeping the weeks. But when I looked at that, I didn't think that it was really enough space for me. It would be enough space probably 50% of the time. And then for the other 50% of the time, it was not going to be enough space. And I realized, I'm like, that's not a good idea. Let me try something else. So what I landed on, I'm still doing the, I still have the day timer, day on 2 pages, like this. So you see, I didn't use that much of this today. But on the other hand, if I tried to fit all of this into the space of a week on 2 pages, that wouldn't work either. So, so I have this. I took the weeks out, and I actually took the months out, and I ordered something new. So these are also from Daytimer, and this is a fold-out month view. So I get a couple of things that I chose this one instead of the conventional sort of month on 2 pages with the tab that is typical that Franklin Covey comes with. I don't know if Daytimer has a version, or I don't know if FileFX has a version of it, but certainly Franklin Covey and Daytimer do a month on 2 pages. What this one gave me was, first of all, the Monday week start. So that's really nice. I like that is logical to me, having the week start on a Monday. And in the ones on 2 pages, you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and notes. So it's each side is broken into 4 columns, so they're pretty narrow. You see on this one, each side is broken into 3 columns. You have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday share one. That is fine because this is primarily a scheduling calendar, and I do not do a lot of scheduled events on the weekend. Even if I work on the weekend, I never have meetings with people on the weekend. I never have appointments at work on the weekend. So on the weekend I might have, I might be going to a party on one evening. I might be meeting somebody for lunch on a Sunday afternoon or something. Things like that. I can fit that. I have 4 lines for Saturday and Sunday. And like I said, everything is wider because you have 1 less column. The other thing that's, you have note space down here, which I do not use. So in my ideal world, they would have actually spread all these day, all the day columns, rows, columns, anyway, you know what I mean. All of the day spaces would be a little bit taller and you'd lose this extra row on the bottom. But this is fine. It works well. You have space on the back for, it's listed appointment details, but what I actually was thinking about using this for was just a monthly to-do list, but I haven't really subsequently been developing. I don't really plan on a monthly basis. I plan more on a weekly basis. So things are either plotted out for this week, next week, or they're just on a big list of things that need to get done. But there are occasionally 1 or 2 things that really need to get done a certain month that I'll plot out well in advance. So that was in lieu of a week page and a month page. I just have 1 big month page. It does fold out. I started with this. I would put the August one before the August day pages, but I actually realized it's easier if I'm looking at my month view and toggling back to a day view. It's much easier to see what I'm doing this way because I can just peek under here and see it, as opposed to having it on the other side when the month calendar, if it's on this side, what you're looking at is this, and to see the month, you have to sort of roll it, or flip it completely over. So I first put it this way partially because I thought having a monthly to-do list on this fold-out that I could then look at alongside my day page would be really handy for planning and things, but it turns out I actually need to look at my schedule more than my to-do list. So this way works a little bit better. You can't see the whole week, but you can see the second half, and like I said, it's easy enough just to sort of peek at the rest of it. So anyway, and you see that these are wider than the day pages by about I would say almost half an inch. And so they still fit in the binder because they're about the same width as a tab would be, but that means that you get even more, when you fold it out, you get even more space than you would have gotten if it folded over a little bit closer in. So I thought these were a really efficient use of the page for the way that I plan. I can write down the reference number, note the reference number under this video when I post it. But so that was a big change. The other thing that I did was I bought DIY fish. The pages that came with the vendor spec, it was listed as an A5 binder, but the pages that come with it, I don't know if I have the front page here. So this Memory System Office A5 are not A5. They are 5.5 by 8.5. They're half letters. So I bought the 5.5 by 8.5 DIY fish month and week set, not the day set. So this I have the monthly chart, I have the month view, I have the space for lists, and I bought these not as I haven't really figured out how to use these for my own routine planning, but what I do find them helpful with, if I flip to July, or here's June. So when things at work start to get kind of crazy, or I'm trying to deal with a big project and I want to be able to plot it out visually so I can see where the different parts of it are happening and where they sort of stack up together, like a Gantt chart, I can do this. So I had a project I was working on at the end of June. I wrote out the project steps here, and then I actually doubled up the columns because it was a little easier for me to see, and I didn't need all these rows, obviously. So, and then I just used a color for each one that I would mark off the days that I intended to be, that those parts of the project would be in action, so that I could see kind of the sequencing of the project. Whenever I get overwhelmed at work, I really like to be able to do something like this because it helps me to see where the bottlenecks are, so I can, usually I can adjust things a little bit to alleviate those. So this is really nice, and it also just sort of getting every sort of step that needs to happen and then starting to plot out how to do it sequentially in the sequence that it needs to happen or that it should happen. That's really helpful. I'm sorry I keep saying so much. I don't know why. I feel like I didn't used to do that in videos, and now I do all the time, and I end up filming videos and not posting them because I'm embarrassed by how many times I say in the video. Anyway, here's today's page. It's a weekend day. I don't really have much except a to-do list. I have a few notes over here, and that's it. So that's sort of how things go. When I got the pages, when I got the months, I also bought the weeks, but I haven't really figured out how to use them yet. So I have the weekly planning pages, which include a weekly chart, and then you've got a place for scheduling, and then you have a sort of a to-do list. And I haven't, or whatever kind of list you want. I have these basically, the way that these came out of the box, the chart prints on the reverse of the planning page for that corresponding week. I mentioned to Shang Chen, is that it? Anyway, I'm really sorry, I just blanked. The woman who makes these, that it would be really handy to be able to see the week at a view. So to have the weekly chart with the weekly planning page in one view like this. And so she just emailed it to me, reconfigure to print that way, which was really nice of her, because I think I probably could have figured it out myself using Adobe Acrobat Pro. But anyway, I think that would make it really useful. If you're not using, depending on how your system is set up, I think that would be a nice way to be able to look at sort of doing a weekly planning situation. And then you could flip back to this and fill it, like write out all of your daily to-do list and then mark them off as you do them each day. Or as I saw in Patty from Homemakers Daily, she made a video that she actually made the weekly chart detachable by snipping through each of the ring holes so that she could actually take it out and put it in each like each day, move it to the next day in her 2-page per day diary. So anyway, I'll just link to her video so you can see what she's talking about, which I think is really kind of brilliant too. Anyway, I've gone on for a while, but that's kind of my update. The whole system is working really well. I've definitely been having daydreams about getting into something smaller, just because this is a bit of a handful to carry around all the time. I can handle it in one hand. It's easier to handle it with two. But I was really thinking it would be nice to have something smaller, particularly nice to have something that would slip into a pocket. But when I look at the page size, I just cannot conceptualize, because this part of this, bigger pages, bigger rings means it's just bigger, you can fit more stuff. But the other thing that I really notice is that the forms are much easier to fill in. For example, I have the Franklin Covey check registers in classic size. These are so much easier for my own handwriting to fit in than the smaller sized ones. And it really, it's noticeable how much easier it is. And I mentioned before, but I have a minor fine motor control impairment. It's a little bit hard for me to control fine manipulation of my hands. So handwriting is a little bit more difficult for me than it is for most people. And I find that when I was using a smaller planner with tighter ruling, it was really kind of, I feel like when I flipped to this larger page size, it was just so much easier to write that I could just, very freely write. I didn't find myself having to squeeze my handwriting down so much. And of course, I don't really have any problem. When I wrote on smaller page sizes, I was ended up just completely ignoring the lines, the ruling on the page, because it was so hard for me to fit, and I would just end up just writing big loopy handwriting, ignoring the lines. But I find on this one, it's relatively easy for me to keep things within the lines. So it all comes out a little bit neater, it's a little bit more precise, and that's nice. So that's all I've got, guys. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, complaints, whatever. But I cannot get over, this is such a nice planning product, and for the price, I really think it is definitely the best value for the money that's on the market. When you add to that the fact that the company who makes these offer the best customer service ever, I have absolutely, they have gone so over and above for me. It's just amazing. It's when I got it, it didn't come with the ruler page finder thing, this thing. So I just mentioned something in my video, which Petra van der Spek watched, and she contacted me and said, "Oh, you were supposed to get one, and I'll send you one." And I wrote her back and I said, "Well, I could actually use two, and why don't you invoice me?" Because I didn't want to, it's like sending, the ruler itself probably is sort of an inconsequential expense, but the shipping internationally costs some money. And, why don't you just give me two, invoice me for them? And then a week later, I got an envelope with 4 in it that she had never invoiced me for. And then, like I said, when I damaged it, which was purely my fault, they fixed it at no charge and paid for the shipping both ways, and has been, absolutely awesome. Any question, comment, anything that I have gets responded to, and it's really nice. So, I can't think of anybody else in the industry who's offering that level of service, and I think it's really fantastic. So, anyway, can't recommend these highly enough. They do cost a little bit more than, say, well, I guess it's hard to know. This cost more than a basic Filofax or Franklin Covey binder, certainly. But it did not cost nearly as much as some very high... It didn't cost more than any high-end comparable file effects, and it costs much, much, much less than a Giglio. So I think it really it just hits a sweet spot. Quality and customizability. I don't know. That's not the right word. Anyway, totally custom made to your specs, and the price point is really bang on right, and the service is fantastic. And so I think, buy one. I can't recommend it highly enough. So that's all. It really is all. It's 25 minutes now, so I'll stop rambling. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk soon. Take care.